So for fashion photography, there's picking a photographer, models, making clothing samples, picking a location, styling, prepping the clothing, packing for an outdoor photo shoot, and then preparing mentally. So much work goes into just presenting a pair of linen pants to someone online. I think this process is very exciting, but it's also really nerve-wracking. Hey friends, welcome to Charlie Darwin Textiles. I'm Leah and I create 100% linen clothing that's all handmade and hand-dyed using pigments from plants. Pretty much all of the stuff I do with my clothing brand is DIY, and that does not exclude my photography. I want to tell you this story about how these pants go from something I'm holding in my hands to a beautiful photo that really captures their vibe and their essence. The first thing I do is I make decisions on a photographer, and that sounds fancier than it is. It all started at first about 2.5 years ago. It was just my boyfriend taking pictures of me with our cell phones, and that was a great start, but I quickly realized how much I needed to grow from there. Now, I have a DSLR camera myself, and I have in the past done photo shoots by myself with a remote, and that's always so frustrating because the remote battery or the signal or something never works that well, and there's so many times where that remote battery wouldn't work, and so I'd be pressing it and pressing it and pressing it, and pretty soon I just start getting pictures of me just jamming the remote going, "Pah, fuck you." I quickly stopped with the remote method. I've had my boyfriend also help take pictures of me with my DSLR, and we're just not that skilled in it, nor is our camera that good. Okay, this is future me editing this video, and I just want to say I am not giving me or my boyfriend nearly enough credit here. We have done so many photo shoots that actually turned out super amazing, and anyway, so screw me and my negativity in this scene. I think we did a great job, but I was very excited to up my game, as you'll see. And I've gotten to the point where for this fall collection coming out on September 19th, I am excited to have had my sister take the photos for me. Now, my sister I would consider to be a pretty professional photographer. Her name is Erin Whitcomb, and she does photography around the Indianapolis area. You should look her up. She mostly does family portrait photography and sometimes headshots for people. She's not used to doing fashion photography, but she's my sister. So of course she's going to help me out a little bit when I need her help on a creative project. The photos turn out nice. I'll show you the difference between what a cell phone photo looks like versus me doing the remote photo versus my boyfriend taking the pictures of me, and then my sister doing the photography with a much better camera and a much greater skill set in photography. I've just realized that she's so good at making me feel comfortable and positioning me as the model, and because we're sisters, it's nice because I think she thinks this is nice too. When I really want someone to look at me and say like, "Oh my god, no, bad angle," or like double chins, or move your hair, I don't want someone to feel too like they're insulting me by saying that, but because we have that sisterly love, it's really easy and non-confrontational for her to tell me to sort of fix myself in the frame, and that's really helpful. So the next thing I have to decide far ahead of time is, am I going to have any other models in the photo shoot with me? So last spring, I had pretty much had it on being my own model. A huge emotional issue I have with the photo shoots is when I'm my own model, there's so much pressure on my sense of self, my body image, being tied up into my business and into my art form. And that's a really hard thing to manage that I wasn't really signing up for or anticipating when I started Charlie Darwin. But I've moved around so much in the last few years, I don't have a lot of people who live locally who I'm comfortable enough asking. So when I was in Boston, I didn't really have anyone. In Now that I'm in Pittsburgh, I'm still sort of meeting people, and it's a lot to ask of someone of, hey, do you want to be in front of the camera wearing my clothes? For a while there, I kept feeling like I needed my model to be my size because all of my samples are made in my size. And I didn't want to have to invest more money and time into making different sized clothes if I didn't know if this was actually going to be a good return on my investment. So, all that to say, last spring I finally had it. I got out of my own way and I said, I'm just going to ask someone, because I had my sister do the photos in Indiana. I asked an old friend from college who went to Indiana University with me, Sydney, and shout out to Sydney. She did such an awesome job just jumping in. And I did choose Sydney because she's, first of all, an amazingly fun and flexible personality. She's beautiful, but I also thought this will be great because she's my same size. And so I don't have to make different samples for her. That took so much pressure off of my experience. I reflected on that day afterwards like, oh my God, this was one of the best decisions I've ever done, is had my sister do my photos and have someone else be in them with me. It was such a necessary upgrade. So come this fall, I am thinking about doing my collection launch again, and I'm considering what can I do to really lead this project with my heart and my intuition, and what's going to feel right to me. What's not going to make it feel like just dark gunk in my soul. I don't want to feel self-conscious during it. I don't want to feel like I'm forcing myself to do something I don't want to do. And so I knew that it was time to, again, have my sister do the photos. And this time I was thinking, okay, I think I'm about ready to branch out to someone who is a very different size than me, and just very different than me in general. But I also am thinking about who I know, and I think, oh, who would be really fun? Because I want to lighten up the mood for myself while modeling in these photo shoots. And so it struck me, and I thought, I'm going to ask my dad. And my dad, he's 6 foot tall. He's, I think he's 67, 68. And so he has got this big dark mustache, and he's such a fun person. I knew it would be a great time. And so I asked my dad, and he was like, are you sure? And I said, I'm 100% sure. I think this is going to be so awesome. And he wasn't necessarily beaming about his modeling confidence, but I had confidence in him that it would be perfectly fun and fine, and I knew it'd turn out great no matter what. So that's who I went with for this. And so shout out to Pookie, that's what I call my dad, and Pookie is featured in this upcoming fall photo shoot, and I think is especially a great fit because the new orchid pants and the wren shirt are both very gender neutral. They're not made specifically for any gendered type body type. There's no bust darts. They're a little bit more loose fitting, but still tailored to everyone's custom body measurements. So I thought it was a perfect fit for this. So that is how I determined the model for this shoot, and I have no regrets. Honestly, in the photo shoot itself, he was so fun. He did lots of course, classic dad goobery poses, but he also really showed up to do the more serious poses, and I think he freaking nailed it. And again, it was so nice to take that pressure off just myself being in the photo shoot. And the next thing I have to choose ahead of time is what location we're going to take the photography in. And so I'm thinking around Indiana, and to be honest, I'd say the main reason I really dislike Indiana, where I'm from and I grew up and I lived there for 22 years, is I think that it is geographically and just a little bit culturally just really boring, in my personal opinion. And so I was like, oh God, my parents live in 7 acres in the woods, and that's really beautiful, but I've already had so many woods photo shoots, and what's a new place we might be able to try out? And I remembered that a few years ago I went to this little like barn concert thing, if you can even call it that, at a place called Acres Land Trust. And this is northeast Indiana, around Fort Wayne. And it was really beautiful, and it is very Indiana-esque, but I thought, when in Rome, let's really capture the moment. And I was fingers crossed because I hadn't been there in a few years. But I will say, we went there and it was beautiful. There was a few times where we went to go into we were like, oh, this shot would be so much cooler if we like get in the weeds. Like if we go in and get in the wildflowers. And we're wearing long sleeves and long pants, so we're thinking this is like, we're fine, we're protected, we're covered up and everything. I think I might have been wearing sandals and my dad was wearing, I was wearing sandals and my dad was wearing closed-toed shoes. And we just thought we were fine. We still thought we were fine throughout the whole photo shoot, but it was so funny because I saw my dad maybe like 2 weeks later, and I was telling him, I was like, when I was home, must have been sitting around the pool, I got these crazy fly bites. And he was like, no, were they like huge welts? And I was like, yeah. And he says, those are chiggers. They're like all in the weeds that we went into. And apparently, I had previously thought like, this is the weirdest place to get fly bites. Like I had them like, this is TMI, but I had them like in my armpits and right around like my bra line. I don't even wear a bra, but around that area, and like in my crotch area and on my butt cheeks, and like the most inconvenient places to just be itching. And I'm talking to my dad and he's like, yeah, chiggers, like they go and they get in all of like your warmest, moistest areas of your body, and they leave these killer bites on you that itch like crazy. And apparently he had them all over him in the exact same places as well. And I tell you, oh my God, it wouldn't be a Charlie Darwin outdoor photo shoot if something like this didn't happen, because oh my God, so many of my photo shoots have resulted in me getting poison ivy on my legs, on my face, getting mosquito bites, getting spider bites, getting mud all over my clothes I'm trying to photograph. Luckily, they wash out easy. But that's part of the fun, I guess you can say, of doing outdoor photo shoots. It's very authentic, very real. So of course I pick a location, we get in the weeds, and we just get chigger bites all over us. All right, so now let's zoom in a little bit to right before the photo shoot. What happens at this phase is some getting ready and styling of myself and my dad, and prepping the clothing and prepping mentally. So some things I consider when I'm getting ready. I'm really excited. I got a new haircut this spring and highlights, and being my own model is, like I said, there's so much of my body image tied up in showing up and looking a certain way in these photo shoots. And it's really low pressure in that it's a very earthy photo shoot. It's a very not made up, glamorous photo shoot. I pretty much just like my hair to look sort of wacky curly, and I don't wear much makeup. But it helps when I have a good haircut for curly hair, and the highlights really help add texture, and I'm all about texture in the vibe, which you can see my past video on how I have sort of curated and mastered my vibe for Charlie Darwin, with the designs and the look and the marketing. So I got my new haircut and my highlights, and for my dad, there's not much to primp, on him, but I really wanted him to try out some spiky hair. And so he gets this wacky, crazy morning hair, and sometimes he like doesn't really change it for the whole day. And it just is like his hair, and he keeps getting his haircut at this at this place that's like someone's porch in Huntertown, and that's always kind of goofy. And then he went to Great Clips the other day, and they just like completely buzzed his hair off in a weird way that he didn't ask for. And so it's always kind of a funny topic, but we I was like, I want the spikes. We want to preserve the spikes. And because I had this inspo photo that I showed him ahead of time. And his hair wasn't quite that long, but I was like, this is what we're going for, Pookie. So try and channel this. And he was like, oh man, I don't know. That's a lot. But I told him, it's all right. You just have to be 1% of this photo and I'll be happy. So we did. I tried to spike his hair a little bit, get a little bit messy, but there's only so much I could do. So the last thing I prep is my mentality. And I've sprinkled it throughout this whole video. As you can see, there's a lot that I consider psychologically about my emotions during the photo shoot. It's been, I think, one of, besides the psychological warfare of Instagram, I feel like my photo shoots are psychologically one of the hardest elements for me in running a handmade clothing business. And I think that really comes down to being so nervous about managing other people, managing their emotions, thinking about a lot of things at once, and also thinking about what I look like. And because this is in the woods, I don't have a mirror at all. And so it's really scary for me to be standing in front of a camera, and oftentimes I'm changing clothes. There's no dressing room because I do all outdoor photography, and there's no dressing room. I'm just out in the woods, like taking off one top, throwing it on the ground, putting a new top on, and I don't even know how it looks tucked into the pants. I don't know if the scarf is laying right. My hair could be completely flipping out weird. My cheeks flushed from just climbing up a huge hill. So there's a lot of elements about how I look that I actually love that in real life. I love being on a hike, and who cares how you look? But when I actually bring these photos home at the end of the day and I'm going to edit them, and I have to flip through hundreds of photos of myself, and I'm like, oh my God, we didn't get a single photo of the blue pants. I have specifically one photo shoot that I thought was incredibly challenging. I was emotional wreckage. The lighting was all wrong. Emotions were a little bit strung out between me and my boyfriend trying to get the right photo. And I kept looking at the pictures of me through the, on the preview of the camera and thinking, I look so bad. These are terrible pictures. And it started to make me feel like I'm actually not even a good designer. This clothing looks terrible on me, and it's going to look terrible on everyone else. And there's no way I'm even going to be able to edit these pictures to look good. And then it's hard to have all those emotions run through me and then think, okay, we still have 2 more things to take pictures of, and go stand in front of the camera again and try and look confident and comfortable in what I'm wearing. And so that's just a taste of what a more negative photo shoot feels like. But I have had a few of those that really sucked, and so I'm trying my hardest. I think I've done a great job this year at really trying to dig my way out of that mentality and set up the conditions so that I don't mentally get into that place, and also recognize what might trigger me into feeling or acting a certain way. So paying more attention to getting a good haircut ahead of time. What's the lighting that day? Does the photographer have enough patience to sit through all the clothes we're going to take pictures of? Those are all things that I've really upped my game at, and it's made such a difference for me. So I'm happy to say I'm getting to a much better spot with my mentality on photo shoots. I'm actually starting to look forward to them in a way that I haven't before. So while I do feel like I have a pretty good setup at this point, I am still working on a couple things. I want to come up with a good system or mentality for continuing to invite other people to be in my photos. I think it might be fun to get a different person every time, but I still don't have the high enough income, security about that I'll get a return on investment to pay someone to do this job. And so that's unfortunate. Of course, I'd love to at a point be able to pay everyone who helps me with my business, but for now it's just me, and I'm always looking for the right person to sort of invite into this space. So I'm working on that, and I'm also working on trying to remember to get good videos of each clothing item. Video is so helpful when you're shopping online. I didn't quite do it this time at the first photo shoot. I'm trying to remember to get more even just cell phone videos of the clothing being worn and walking around while I have it on the model, while I'm on site. I think that will really help in the long run. Because I didn't get any videos on site this time, I was super excited. The next stop on my trip was to go to Colorado to visit my older brother. This is a whole family affair, and he has a really awesome drone. So we went out in the mountains and we at least got some epic drone footage of me wearing the fall collection out in the mountains by a beautiful serene lake. And while it's not the most detailed shots of the clothing, it's really a spectacular big view of the vibe of the clothing. So I'm really happy that we were able to capture that, and that my brother was able to also help me be able to represent what the real beautiful linen pants look like and how to make them look just as beautiful in a video. So thank you so much to my brother, my sister, and my dad for all chipping in for this photo shoot. My mom was there for moral support. But I really hope that you enjoy the photos that came out of it, and I hope that you enjoy this video getting to hear some of the stories and behind the scenes of all of the decisions and hard work that go into presenting just a shirt and a pants to you online. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in future videos. Please do like this video if you got any value from it, and feel free to subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see what's coming next.